Today is Wednesday, January 13, 2021. Think up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Donald Trump, the first president in American history, impeached twice. In just a moment, we'll go to Capitol Hill, where Speaker Nancy Pelosi will be addressing the media. We'll be covering all aspects of this. It's time to bring the funk of Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the miss, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time and it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
Democrats have successfully impeached Donald Trump for the second time. 10 Republicans voted along with the Democrats to impeach Donald Trump for him inciting the insurrection that took place a week ago on Capitol Hill. Right now, this House Speaker Nancy Pelosi is addressing the. We're going to go live to comments in just 1 second, folks. So just give me a second. Let me know if y'all have Speaker Nancy Pelosi up. It's critically important. This is the first time in history that a president has been impeached twice. Never before has it happened where a president was impeached twice. Trump now is that very person. And we're going to actually to Capitol Hill where Nancy Pelosi signing the articles of impeachment. She is, like I say, right now. And so what's happening is you still have the House is in session. She will sign those and they will go over to the United States. Mitch McConnell already said he is not going to bring those up for a vote. This right again, right now, is Nancy Pelosi signing these articles of impeachment right now. Go ahead.
We stand before you to give account for our role in today's momentous decisions and our deepest desire to carry out our responsibilities to govern, protect, while yet unsettled by the events of this past week.
That you're hearing right now is the audio. That's the kill that audio. That's the audio that's coming from the well of the House. Again, you see right here these photographers taking photos of the actual articles of impeachment. Nancy Pelosi, she now is actually walking out. And so this is some delayed video here. So she has already signed those articles of impeachment. And again, for the first time in American history, a president has been impeached twice by the House of Representatives. Now, here's what also makes this completely and totally different than what we've ever seen before. 10 Republicans voted along with Democrats to impeach Donald Trump. That is the most ever for a president's party. The most ever. So this is the most, what happened today is the most bipartisan impeachment in American history. Remember, it has only happened to 3 United States presidents. Just 3. President Andrew Johnson, then, of course, Bill Clinton, and then Donald Trump. Now, a second time. And so that's what's going on here. There are numerous speeches taking place on the floor of this House. We're going to show you some of those. The reality is this here. Donald Trump's involvement in a catastrophe is important because what the House said that he led these folks, encouraged them, told them to go down to the Capitol. Numerous Republicans stood up. In their speeches, they said, not enough time. It's not enough time. We really shouldn't be doing this. We shouldn't be. We haven't had an investigation. You don't need an investigation. You don't need an investigation when you can show exactly what took place. When the man stood in front of these people and called for it. In fact, Republicans, even Kevin McCarthy, the Republican House leader, said Donald Trump did not ask these people to stand down. What this man did, absolutely positive, was ignore the U.S. Constitution. The president is sworn to protect the country from enemies, foreign and domestic. The reality is these terrorists, these domestic terrorists, were there to support him, support Donald Trump. We all know that. We know exactly Why he didn't say anything? Because he relished it. Reporting that's come from the Washington Post and the Times says and confirms that's exactly what he did. He enjoyed it. He enjoyed these people. He enjoyed watching these do with it. Congressman Steny Hoyer, the party leader, actually quoted Liz Cheney in her comments where she said she was going to impeach Trump. This is what Hoyer had to say.
And I want to reference the remarks of the chair of the Republican Conference, which is the analog to the Democratic caucus. It is all the Republicans elected to the Congress of the United States in the House of Representatives. And they elected Liz Cheney, the daughter of the Vice President of the United States. The former whip of this House, Dick Cheney, with whom I served in the 80s. Representative Cheney from Wyoming, a conservative Republican, said this: "The President of the United States summoned the mob, assembled the mob, and lit the flame of this attack." That's not some irresponsible new member of the Congress of the United States. This is the daughter of the former Republican whip and former Vice President of the United States of America. She knows of what she speaks. And she said this as well: "There has never been a greater betrayal by a President of the United States of his office and his oath of Constitution to the Constitution." This is not, as Liz Cheney says, just some action. She characterizes it as the biggest betrayal of any President of the United States in our history.
Let's go to my panel. A. Scott, former chair of National Bar Association Political Activity, Robert Portillo, Executive Director of the Rainbow Push Coalition Peachtree Street Project, Monique, legal analyst and crisis manager. Monique, second history made with Donald Trump. The bottom line is, I heard the wild crying of Republicans. Oh, what are we going to do? What are we going to do? The reality is this. The reality is Donald Trump did it. I don't understand why these people somehow think we need to have this massive, massive investigation. Let's have long hearings. The reality here, he said it, he did it, it was clear, and you don't have to have a big old show and then to have McCarthy say, "Oh, we could just censure him." The Republicans would support censure. This was the right move by the House.
Absolutely. This was the thing that they needed to do. It wasn't just the right move because there weren't any other moves that were more politically expedient. It was the right move because impeachment is required. The things that the president did, the statements he made, the acts he committed, the insurrection that bears his responsibility requires impeachment. It's an impeachable offense. And so I frankly am pleased that they went in that direction, whether it equals him ultimately being removed before his clock runs out or not. The message has to be made that if you commit this level of offense, that the direct and appropriate action will take place.
The thing here, Robert, that was just a joke is to look to these whiny Republicans. This is just, he's going to be leaving in 7 days. I mean, why are you doing this? Because you do it for history. You do it because it's right. You do it because it doesn't, the Constitution does not say, here's a window in which you should do this. Republicans actually told us that, hey, we can confirm a Supreme Court justice anytime we want because the Constitution does not state it can't happen. Well, guess what? If you can confirm a Supreme Court justice in 8 days, you damn sure can impeach a president 6 days before the inauguration.
Absolutely. And let's understand that impeachment is fundamentally a question of guardrails in our constitutional system. They only check on the Article 2 powers of the president or the Article 1 powers of the Congress. And what Congress, the only remedy for Congress to do when you have a rogue president is to impeach. That is the singular and sole way of dealing with a president. And even if they are not removed from office, what you're doing is sitting on a historical record where in 100 years or 200 years, if our republic is still standing, they can look back and say, well, guess what? The losing presidential candidate cannot send his militia to attack attack Congress to try to decertify the Electoral College. I think that's a very good rule to have. And quite frankly, I think that if Donald Trump, if this was earlier in his administration, would be the first president to be removed, because there are enough Republicans in the Senate, I believe, that would vote to remove once a president has become basically a terrorist leader. Right now, President Trump is very similar to a Soleimani, to al-Baghdadi, to other insurgent leaders, except for we have military troops sleeping in the United States Capitol in full battle gear with fully armed automatic weapons to fight against American citizens, not against armed insurgents, not against the Chinese or the Russians, but against American citizens who may attack their capital. And the fact that that is being inspired by the President of the United States is the reason that you have to impeach. And further, once they go to a Senate trial, we can strip Donald Trump of the ability to ever run for federal office again, which may be the saving grace for the nation to get us from under the cloud of Trumpism going forward.
It is just unbelievable, Scott, to listen. First of all, 95% of House Republicans voted with Donald Trump. 95% voted Donald Trump. That's first.
Yeah.
What's also laughable here is to listen to them. Whine and complain and act like, well, I love this here. Well, he's called for a peaceful transfer of power after the insurrection, after it failed.
After the fact. No, I thought the Republicans and their arguments were just pathetic today. And because they didn't really have an argument. Remember, the insurrection was an attack on them as well. Let's be real clear. They were chanting Pence's name and Liz Cheney's name as they marched to the Capitol and as they attacked the Capitol. And Donald Trump told them, go give Liz Cheney some courage. And let's give Pence the VP, courage. But here's the other thing. The most incredible argument they made that was most pathetic was this argument that impeaching him only further divides the country. Really? That's something rich on the Republicans who've supported Donald Trump and his divisiveness. That's like saying you want to burglarize my house, shoot my dog, and beat me up, but prosecuting you won't make any difference and it won't be better. Let's talk about settlement, if you will. Well, no, it doesn't solve anything, but I'm not talking to you until you're made accountable for your actions. We can talk about bringing the country together, but we hold you Republicans accountable. And the country, corporate America and otherwise, are going to hold Donald Trump accountable and hold these other Republicans accountable as well going forward.
Joining us live right now from Capitol. One second. Joining us live right now from Capitol Hill is Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina, the House Whip. Congressman, always glad to have you on the show. Congressman Clyburn, can you hear me? Looks like video is frozen, folks. So let me know when we have that sorted out with the Congress, please. All right. The thing here that again for folks who are watching, we watch all of the proceedings, and we listen to these folks say that it's not enough time, and then they say, well, you know, what really can he do? How can he bring harm to the Republican? This is a man who first of all, they are going to execute 3 people between now and Tuesday. This is the man who still holds the key to power, who can order a missile attack, who could literally order the U.S. military to strike a foreign country.
Exactly.
This is a man who still has the power of the office. So this whole idea that Donald Trump is impotent for the next 7 days is an absolute lie. And see, what Republicans really are scared of, and we've seen the reports, they're for the Trump people out there, and they're afraid of voting with the Democrats against Trump. Well, then you should resign. Because the Constitution does not say, if you're afraid people criticize you, then you cannot uphold the Constitution. It is undeniable what this man did. It is undeniable that he was willing to see the nation destroyed, to see members harmed, kidnapped, or even killed, all in an effort to keep him in the Oval Office. And here's what's crazy, folks. None of that would have happened. Despite the call for the insurrection, despite the call for him to go down, there was absolutely nothing, zero, that was going to happen that would keep him in office. And his supporters are so dumb at these idiots listening to him, listening to Fox News, listening to Fox Business, listening to Conservative Talk Radio, reading Breitbart, and the Daily Caller, and the Daily Wire, and the Daily Signal, all of these sites, all of them, Monique, they actually thought, yeah, this is going to do it. No. And now these assholes are getting arrested left and right around the country. One committed suicide in Georgia after the FBI came to him because he was getting arrested as well because he followed an idiot. And they're destroying their lives, and they were willing to destroy the country.
Right. And Roland, I wanted to point something out. It's not just that the Republican Congress members and senators are in fear of public outcry or some type of scorn or political consequences. They are afraid for their lives and the lives of their family members because they have been receiving death threats. And I understand that that is real. But I still agree with what you said. And I saw Soledad O'Brien post the same thing on Twitter today. So then resign, because these types of risks go with the job. President Obama and his family had to live with that fear every single day of service, as does any other president or any other elected official that's at that high level. The one reason that First Lady Obama said in her book and in interviews that she was angry and disapproving of Trump in a way that she would never, ever forgive is because his incendiary comments, his divisiveness put her family at risk. That doesn't mean you pack up your chips and go home. You still do your job. So these Congress people, threat or no threat, have to do their jobs. If they have to get Secret Service protection, if they have to amp up the security around the Capitol, if they have to do what's necessary, they got a whole federal checkbook to get that done. And they should have done it, frankly, after somebody took pot shots at the Congress people a few years ago at the baseball practice. But they didn't. They're still walking around without protection because it was a GOP-led Congress that didn't want to tamper down on guns. So I think they are where they left themselves. And the only answer here is still do your job.
And Roland, I think it's important.
1 second, Robert, 1 second. Let's allow the Capitol Hill with Congressman Jim Clyburn of South Carolina. Congressman Clyburn, glad to have you in Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hey.
Sir, how was it to sit in the House of Representatives, listen to Republican after Republican say, oh my God, this is just too soon. Democrats are attacking him from day one. This is so unfair. He's going to be gone in 7 days. What harm can he do? When they have stood by every statement, every comment, every action, they defended him at every point. They have never held this man accountable, and they were willing to allow him to stay in office after inciting an attempted coup d'etat against the United States.
It's tough to sit and listen to that. But you know, we are to them saying one thing and doing another. As you know, I grew up in a
Looks like we've lost Congressman Clyburn. Let's do this here. Let's get him on the. So guys, do this here. Let's get him on the phone. We clearly have lost his signal, so let's get him on the phone so we can, because we definitely want to hear. I know he doesn't have much time, but please, let's get him on the phone. Robert, go ahead and make your comment.
Oh, I think the Republicans are suffering from what's called a Faustian bargain. About 10 years ago, after losing to Obama, they decided that it was worth bringing in the dregs of America, as Hillary Clinton called them, the deplorables, the conspiracy theorists, the violent mobs, the militias who were on the outside of American politics, and they brought them into the Republican Party in order to beat Obama. That's how these people got into American politics. But what we saw is that metastasized, that you end up getting rid of John Boehner, you got rid of Eric Cantor, and then eventually these outliers turned into the leadership of the party. You know, Ted Cruz and Rand Paul used to be outliers in the Republican Party. Now they are the standard bearers for the party. So now Mitch McConnell is faced with a situation where he has a caucus full of conspiracy theorists, racist, misogynistic, xenophobic, jingoistic individuals who have no interest in America but have an interest in supporting Trumpism and all that comes with Trumpism, and trying to figure out how to create a governing majority. And that's why this impeachment is so crucial and important, because we're seeing these standard, middle of the road, regular Republicans, the Republicans that we used to still hate. Those same Republicans are still around, but at least they are operating from the same set of facts as the rest of us. At least they are operating the same shared universe, same reality, same mathematics, same version of physics that we are operating on. Because what we saw from the Trumpers and from this MAGA movement is losing by 7 million votes means that it got stolen from us. That no amount of math or reality is sufficient to force them to play from the same set of cards as we are. So I think mainstream Republicans are going to have to work to bring the party back to to traditional values and work on purging themselves of these people who are violent separatists, who are extremists, who are part of the Texas movement, who want to remove Texas from the Union, who believe that this will be a whites-only nation. At many of the worst parts of American society, they have bargained with them, and they have to work on fighting back against that.
The thing that is really amazing, Scott, is what the Republicans didn't understand, well, maybe they do understand, is that if you let this man get away, and this is why the impeachment is so important. If you had let this man get away with this nonsense, you're basically saying to any future president, do what the hell you want to do. We will never hold you accountable.
Well, we saw that in this impeachment, though, didn't we? I mean, the Republicans let him get away with shaking down a president of a foreign country in exchange for dirt on a political opponent, and they remove him from office. I guess the real danger here on all of this is, as Robert said, about the RNC and what they have to do. Well, they're not prepared to do that right now. What Trump has done is brought out these deplorables, right? And now they vote. And so one of the challenges for the representatives of the House, as well as the GOP Senate, is part of that Faustonian deal is that they want to get reelected. And these Trump supporters aren't GOP supporters, but they still vote, and they're most likely to vote with the GOP. And they're terrified of either being primaried or they're terrified of getting beat. And so the RNC has a choice. I don't think they're prepared to make that choice, because the same head of the RNC was reelected without any competition whatsoever. Trump and the insurrection and the match he lit was never even brought up in Florida at the meetings. And so the real question, not for Democrats, but the GOP, is where does the party go from here? Where does Trumpism go from here? But they're inextricably linked to one another right now. And the Democrats have to fight both of those until the GOP sorts this out. They don't seem to be in a big rush to do it. I got 20,000 National Guard in D.C. right now. I can't even get to my office because of Donald Trump and this GOP nonsense.
The actions taken today, Monique, when we put them in historical context, I go back to the purpose of impeachment. This is the only course Congress has to truly hold a president accountable. Impeachment is supposed to be the ultimate thing. House impeaches, the Senate convicts or acquits. Republicans have basically said, you know what, do whatever. And when Trump said, I could stand on Fifth Avenue and kill somebody and my supporters would not leave me, everybody, all these media people, Republicans, oh, he's just joking. He's just,
no, he wasn't.
Oh, that's just a figure of speech. No, he was 100% correct, 100% correct. And Monique, they proving that he was right. They are willing to let him do anything because they want to stay in power. This is about power and control.
Absolutely. Power corrupts, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. And we are seeing what that looks like in real time and how that can threaten the very principles of our democracy. And we weren't close to perfect in the execution of what a democracy should be in the first place. We have systems in place that I don't have to talk to your listeners about, from the vestiges of slavery up till now, that make this a very imperfect union. But we are seeing what the corruption and perversion looks like when you can buy your place into an office, when you can use blackmail in order to gain support, when you can put the squeeze on pretty much anybody, elected officials, and when foreign influences are actually controlling, foreign countries that are supposed to be our adversaries are actually controlling the person who runs in the highest office of the land. And so the entire system, and I mean rooter to tutor, it has to be shaken, turned upside down, and shaken to see what's going to fall out. Because to Robert's point, we don't just have these rogue GOP members. They want to carry weapons in the Capitol now because they aren't a part of the same DC reg that they can't carry them. They are spreading coronavirus. The assault on the Capitol turned into a super spreader event that is preying on the infirm among them and those with pre-existing conditions. There are members of Congress right now that are a real threat to their own colleagues. So it's not just that the impeachment has to have some teeth. All of it, removal has to. I mean, Al Franken got pushed out of office because of an allegation. And we've got people now staying in office that are treasonous, that are supporting insurrection, that have no oath whatsoever except for to this president. So there's so much more that needs to be done under this Biden-Harris administration in order to just reconstruct actually some pillars into the entire operation of what it looks like to be a federal government.
Hold tight 1 second. I think we have Congressman Jim Clyburn back. Congressman, you there? All right. Well, guys, you were sitting there. Okay, got it. All right. Let me know when we have him back. Folks, there were a number of speeches that took place on the floor. In fact, let's do this here. Let's play the speech by Congressman Jim Clyburn. He had to say today on the House floor regarding impeaching Donald Trump.
Today, we must do our constitutional duty once again. While the president failed in his attempt to upend our democracy last Wednesday's events, make clear that if we do hold him accountable and remove him from power, a future attempt could very well be successful. The survival of our democracy depends on defeated candidates accepting their defeats. It has been the case in every presidential election since 1864. Our January 6th session is a vital part of the transfer of power, not the contest for power. Vice President Gore understood this, accepting and certifying the 2000 election result in which he was defeated. Vice President Biden understood this, accepted and certifying the president's victory in the 2016 election. This president's refusal to participate in the peace transfer of power and his role in the inciting of the last week's violence posed an existential threat to our constitutional democracy. This threat must be extinguished immediately. This president must be impeached and convicted, and he must be prevented from ever attempting to seize power again. With that, I'll yield back.
Congressman Cedric Rich of New Orleans, who will be leading the House to go work under Joe Biden, particularly clear that this is why he was impeached the first. The Republicans said, no, nothing bad is going to happen. He learned his lesson. He didn't.
Today, in my last floor speech in this body, to do what I was sworn to do on the first day, to protect and defend the Constitution. President Trump put the domestic terrorists on notice by saying, stand back and stand by. He then summoned them to D.C., directed them to march on the Capitol, and then he sat and watched the insurrection. Some of my colleagues, some of which may well be co-conspirators, in this attempt to placate and please this fit president, suggest we shouldn't punish Trump for actions in order to unify the country. It is the climax of foolishness. Let me suggest to them, stand up, man up, woman up, and defend this Constitution from all enemies, foreign and domestic, including Donald J. Trump. In the first impeachment, Republicans said we didn't need to impeach him because he learned his lesson, so no need to remove him. Well, we said if we didn't remove him, do it again.
Gentleman's time has expired.
Simply put, we told you.
The gentleman's time has expired.
Richmond out.
See put, we told you so.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's just think about this one. Vladimir Putin did identify Donald Trump 4 to 5 years ago or 6 years ago and decide to help him run for office. His investment paid off 3-1 because they have exposed every weakness in the American political system. They've exposed our weakness to demagoguery, our weakness to fake news, our weakness when it comes to checks and balances in the United States system, understanding how weak and impotent the Congress of the United States is to regulate the president. The Congress is ceded over its power of the purse strings in many ways to the presidency. It's ceded over its national security power to make and declare war to the executive branch. So in many ways, what we are seeing and what we've seen from the international stage is the diminution of the American influence overseas, and in many ways, it's looking as if this century is going to be a Chinese century, not an American century, because there's no way for our allies to believe that America has a political system that will be stable. There's no way for economic markets to believe that the dollar will be able to sustain a Don Jr. run in 2024 or 2028 or 22, or Ivanka presidency in the 2040s. If you're our ally in the international markets, how would you believe that America would have the power to stand up to that? And frankly, we are at a place now where we may be getting close to a convention of the states because we have to be able to reform our Constitution, amend it to put guardrails in place to prevent the next Donald Trump from happening, because around every corner there will be a Donald Trump generation rising up, and that is what America will be facing over the next half century. So if this is what Vladimir Putin paid for, he got his money back 3-1. He might as well go play the Mega Millions or the Powerball because it worked out great for him.
If y'all are looking for a good laugh, and as always, this is no laughing matter. Trump can't tweet, but he decided to put out a statement on the White House YouTube channel. YouTube has also blocked his personal YouTube page from posting things. So he could talk to the American people live. He's been scared to hold a conference, and so they shoot these videos where they tape them 2 or 3 times because it's hard for him to read from a teleprompter. And so listen to this joke of a person in the Oval Office.
My fellow Americans, I want to speak to you tonight about the troubling events last week. As I have said, the incursion of the U.S. Capitol at the very heart of our republic. It angered and appalled millions of Americans across the political spectrum. I want to be very clear, unequivocally condemn the violence that we saw this week. Violence and vandalism have absolutely no place in our country and no place in our movement.
I can play that nonsense a little bit later. Let's go to Congressman Jim Clyburn. We finally have him. Congressman?
Yes, sir.
So now the first person impeached in history decides to drop a video decrying the violence. Really?
Well, you can't believe anything Trump says. We've been interacting with him, 4 years? How many times have you heard any real truth out of him? So he feels he's going to say what he thinks he needs to say to keep him in the game. But I do believe that the end result here is going to be banning this man from ever being in office again.
But so explain that to our audience. Getting impeached did not disqualify him for office. So how did that happen? Doesn't that require another vote? Explain that, please.
Yes. Well, to vote to impeach, you have to vote to remove him from office, and you also vote to keep him from ever holding office again. Not just under those procedures. The 14th Amendment procedure. I always associate the 14th Amendment, of course, with slavery issues. The 13th, freeing slaves, and the 15th, giving slaves right to vote. But the sandwich between them is the most important one, in my opinion, outside of being free slavery, and that is what we call due process and equal protection law. And there's a little section, I think it's Section 3, that deals with the ability to deny a person from holding the position of honor ever again.
Before we got cut off, you were talking about what it was like to sit there and listen to Republicans. act as if this man has done nothing wrong and don't want to hold him accountable. And I just think what this says is that if y'all did not do what you did today, essentially what you would be saying to any future president, if there's nothing that you can do that would disqualify you from office, that do whatever you want to do, literally lead the nation, take over U.S. Capitol, and potentially harm, maim, or kill members of Congress, doesn't matter. You can stay in the White House.
That's exactly right. That's why we had to do this. And I've been saying a lot of my friends who wonder why you're doing this, only got 10 days left in office. Well, the next person just might do it on the first 10 days in office. So what we've got to do is just say to the people, you are not going to be able to say the kind of things this man said, incite people to riot. Look what happened. One man got killed. Another man, and they killed himself. And then we've got other people who were injured. And so you say you just let this man do this, and because it's late in his term, let it go. You know, you just can't let things go to keep this democracy together. And the way you do that is demonstrating once and for all that no one person, irrespective of your status, is above the law. That's what we do with Richard Nixon, and he had enough not to go through the process and get out of town. And that's what we're doing with Donald Trump. But you know, Roland, we did him a favor. He's always been talking about doing things that's never been done before. Well, we're doing something for him that's never been done before. And so I think he should be pleased with that.
Congressman Kevin McCarthy, Republican House leader, stood on that floor, talked about unity and what should happen. Congressman, I know y'all call each other the gentleman, the gentle lady, but I'm just being perfectly dishonest with you. I have absolutely no desire to work with any Republican who supports that man who makes these excuses. These people have to be held accountable. You have intimated that this was a side job, how they were given to your private office. We've had Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley say that the panic buttons in office were removed. A member said they were giving tours to folks before. We even have a video of these folks where they live streamed themselves talking about where to attack. They were given information on how to attack the U.S. Capitol. Every single person must be uncovered. And if it's Capitol Police, it means members of Congress helped and aided them. They be held accountable. Damn ye until there is justice.
You're absolutely correct about that. And we're very hard to make sure these people who are complicit, and all of them are not necessarily part of the police force or something else. We think that several people in Congress aided and abetted this entire episode. They were getting their signals from Trump as well. And we're going to do the investigation. We're going to do a thorough investigation. I've called for a 9/11 type investigation because what I want to see come out of it is not just uncover who did it, but put them in jail and go about doing what is necessary to make sure it doesn't happen again. Now they'll find something else to do down the road. But if you do this the right way, but also signal to those voters in these congressional districts that's sending these kind of people up here, that if you want real representation, you want something done for your congressional district, send somebody up here with some good sense. Not somebody that's coming up here to carry out some ideology that's got nothing to do with moving this agenda, the agenda of the country forward.
Last question for you, sir, and that is this here. Y'all have put some metal detectors outside of the chamber, and Republicans are whining about that. And then they ignore the Capitol Police. Are y'all going to say to the Capitol Police, if a member does not walk through those metal detectors, they cannot on the floor? Are y'all going to hold them accountable because they're acting like some spoiled brats when children go through metal detectors every day in schools?
You're right. And just to give us some example of how these people think, one person retorted, well, if they just say we can't carry the gun, well, how do we know it's a gun if you don't go through this magnetometer? So that's what we're trying to do. So they got such silly juvenile argument about things. We just got to say everybody is going to be dealt the same. We do it through airports. And so you can come into the House chambers.
Congressman Jim Clyburn, we certainly appreciate it, sir. Thank you so very much for your service. What y'all did today, not only for Americans today, but for American history. For any president in the future, no, you simply are not a king. You are accountable. You lead a revolt against this country.
Absolutely so much. I know how tough it is for you to congratulate Omega, but that's all right.
Well, you know, and Alphas trained y'all well. Cousin Jim Clyburn, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Okay, bud.
All right, y'all. Let me play for y'all the rest of this video from this fool, Donald Trump. This impeached twice each fool, this idiot, despicable, shameful man. Listen to this fool.
Making America great again has always been about defending the rule of law, supporting the men of law enforcement, and upholding our nation's sacred traditions and values. Mob violence goes against everything I believe in and everything our movement stands for. No true supporter of mine could ever endorse political violence. No true supporter of mine could ever disrespect law enforcement, our great American flag. No true supporter of mine could ever threaten or harass their fellow Americans. If you do any of these things, you are not supporting our movement. You are attacking it. You are attacking our country. We can't tolerate it. Tragically, over the course of the year, made so difficult because of COVID-19, we have seen violence spiral out of control. Seen too many riots, too many mobs, too many acts of invasion and destruction. It must stop. Whether you are on the right or on the left, a Democrat or a Republican, there is never justification for violence. No excuses, no exceptions. America is a nation of laws. Those who engaged in the attacks last week will be brought to justice. Now I am asking everyone who's ever believed in our to be thinking of ways to ease tensions, calm tempers, and help to promote peace in the country. There's been reporting that additional demonstrations are being planned in coming days, both here in Washington and across the country. I have been briefed by the U.S. Secret Service on the potential threats. Every American deserves to have voice heard in a respectful and peaceful way. That is your first right. But I emphasize that there must be no violence, no law-breaking, and no vandalism of any kind. Everyone must follow our laws and obey the instructions of law enforcement. I have directed federal agencies to use all necessary resources to maintain order. In Washington, D.C., we're bringing in thousands of National Guard members to secure the city, ensure that a transit can occur safely and without incident. Like all of you, I was shocked and deeply saddened by the calamity at the Capitol last week. I want to thank the hundreds of millions of incredible American citizens who have responded to this moment with calm, moderation, and grace. We will get through this just like we always do. I also want to say a few words about the unprecedented assault on free speech we have seen in recent days. These are tense and difficult times. The efforts to censor, cancel, and blacklist our fellow citizens are wrong, and they are dangerous. What is needed now is for us to listen to one another, not to silence one another. All of us can choose our actions to rise above the rank and find common ground and shared purpose. We must focus on advancing the interests of the whole nation, delivering miracle vaccines, defeating the pandemic, rebuilding the economy, protecting our national security, and upholding the rule of law. Today, I am calling all Americans to overcome the passions of the moment and join together as one American. Let us choose to move forward for the good of our families, our community, and our country. Thank you, God bless you, and God bless America.
Now it's Ellie Mistel from Nation. Ellie, I'm sure it took everything in your power not to bash the computer screen listening to that fool.
Yeah, that's about 5 years too late for that kind of speech. I don't know who wrote it. Obviously, a lawyer or maybe a family member. Wasn't him that wrote it. That isn't the person that we've heard. for the past 5 years. And I don't think that it's going to be the person we'll hear tomorrow or 3 days from now, because he never stays on message for longer than 48 hours.
Well, and the thing, Ellie, is that when you look at this, the silliness, if you will, from Donald Trump, had he actually said that on Wednesday, this would have happened. Had he actually taken Kevin McCarthy's phone calls, had he actually taken Kellyanne Conway's phone calls, had he actually listened to Republicans who said, man, say something? No, he was enjoying last Wednesday. He was relishing last Wednesday. I'm sure he in the Oval Office smiling. The Republicans, Kellyanne Conway called the body man of Trump, who was standing right next to him, and he wouldn't get on the phone because they say when he's live television, it ain't TiVo, he's watching it. He enjoyed seeing them do what they do.
He spent 2 hours on Wednesday riling up that crowd and telling them to march on the Capitol, as opposed to the speech that we just saw. Instead of releasing the National Guard, so now he's going to have released the National Guard for the inauguration. If he had done it for the counting of the electoral votes, this wouldn't happen, but he wouldn't release the National Guard. There have been various reports of, Steny Hoyer on the phone with Larry Hogan desperately trying to get the National Guard released. So he's full of it. He's always been full of it. But Roland, I want to bring one thing up, because it's been happening all day, and he did it a little bit in this, even in this allegedly healing speech. He did it again, where they make the false equivalency between the Black Lives Matter protests over the summer and the riotous mob of white terrorists that we saw last week. They make this false equivalency. Both sides, Democrats and Republicans. Man, let's remind people what happens to Black Lives Matter protesters, all right? In 2016, DeRay McKesson and Brittany Packnett Cunningham were arrested at a protest for Alton Sterling, a man who was killed by the police, an unarmed man who was killed by the police, because one protester threw a brick at a cop. One protester, and they arrested DeRay and Brittany on charges of, wait for it, incitement to violence.
And the cop sued DeRay.
The cop
and it's gone all the way to the Supreme Court.
DeRay had to fight that cop all the way to the Supreme Court on this charge of incitement. Remember, Roland, I'm sure you do, they accused DeRay of planting bricks so that the protesters want this one guy to throw a brick at a cop. That's what happens to Black people who get anywhere near what Trump did for 2 hours on Wednesday. We get arrested. We have our rights, our free speech rights curtailed. We are not free to do 1/10 of what Trump did on Wednesday, and yet he's out here making a false equivalency between Black Lives Matter and what he did.
Just to understand the racism, the white supremacy of the Republican Party, listen to what they did in the House chamber after Congresswoman Cori Bush Lewis spoke for 30 seconds today. Watch this.
Madam Speaker, St. Louis and I rise in support of the article of impeachment against Donald J. Trump. If he failed to remove a white supremacist president who incited a supremacist insurrection, it's communities like Missouri's 1st District that's the most. The 117th Congress must understand that we have a mandate to legislate in defense of Black lives. The first step in that process to root out supremacy, starting with impeaching the white supremacist in chief. Thank you, and I yield back.
And from New York wishes to reserve the
Madam Speaker.
Again, the constant defending of this white supremacist, and for them to deny there were white supremacists who were out there marching, these are white domestic terrorists. And I am happy to see folks getting arrested. 2 Virginia police officers arrested by federal authorities. A Houston police officer has resigned, about to get fired. He's going to be arrested for participating in this here. There's an Olympic swimmer who was in the Capitol. He's arrested by federal authorities. The FBI is going door to door. They're scouring through every piece of information, going after these people. And I'm telling you, come after January 20th, you're going to see a real Department of Justice. You're the Justice Department correspondent. You're going to see them go after every single one of these thugs. And I say, Jeff Sessions, you wanted to peruse back of Eric Holder and go for the highest years. Well, baby, here's the opportunity. These folks should all be imprisoned.
but we don't know if they're going to do it. I mean, I appreciate your optimism that Merrick Garland's Department of Justice will go hard after these people, but I don't know that that's the case, Roland. Unfortunately, I don't know that that Biden will do the hard work of going back into the past, looking behind him, and making sure that all of these criminals are brought to justice. You got to remember that Black people have been trying to tell people this for a while now.
Yep.
That white supremacy and police and law enforcement are one in the same. They are not just on the same team. They're the same people who just change hats depending on the circumstances. Okay. And we will not. I hope that the FBI goes back and roots out all of the people who at least stormed the Capitol. That, as I've said a couple of times on a couple of different shows, prosecuting those people is the floor, right? But we'll never get all the cops who went to the rally and supported it. We'll never get all of them. We'll never get all the cops. Remember, right now, people don't always know this. Right now, the Secret Service is investigating one of their agents for posting pro-Trump memes on Facebook, a meme of Trump shaking his own hand, saying, "Here's to the peaceful transition of power," and encouraging the rioters on Capitol Hill. That is just one Secret Service agent who's being investigated right now for their support of these riots. But we'll never catch all of them. We'll never catch, we say we're going to bring the National Guardsmen. We're not going to catch all of the National Guardsmen who are sympathetic to Trump and sympathetic to these rioters. I wrote in The Nation today, it's not that I question the capability of law enforcement to defend us from these people. I question their commitment to do so. And that is just a reality of being Black in this nation where you can't trust your own protectors. Look at what Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez has been saying. Look at what Ayanna Pressley has been saying. She claims that the panic button in her office was ripped out when she went to shelter there. What is up with that? Who did that? Because it's possible the rioters got there first. But most likely that happened beforehand. Ayanna Pressley's husband also has been, and this is another aspect of it, diagnosed with COVID because these damn Republicans wouldn't put on masks while sheltering with people during the riots. So I just don't know that we'll ever catch and capture and hold accountable all of the white supremacists who were responsible for January 6th and who are going to be responsible for whatever we see going forward.
You talked about not really training a DOJ led by Garland, but you will have Vanita Gupta, you will have Christian Clark, you will have others. But also, you had a cop who was killed. And the one thing federal law enforcement don't play when it comes to that. We played this video yesterday. Matt Schlapp was on Fox News, where he talked about all of these cops, scores of who were killed during the Black Lives rallies. I'm going, can you name one? It's a lie. I mean, this is what they do. They promote these vicious lies to amp up their white base on Fox News, on Fox Business, on One American News Network, on Newsmax, on Conservative Talk Radio. They are all about appealing to whiteness. This is absolutely white supremacy. This is absolutely white nationalism, and Donald Trump represents the leadership of white nationalism.
We have never seen African Americans in this country, in the history of this country, riot against the government like we saw white people do on Wednesday. It has just never happened. And if it had happened, they'd round all of us up at least for questioning. All right? There is no opportunity. It's not like Black people don't have grievances too in this country, but there has never been a situation where we have assaulted the government of the United States in the way that we saw white people do on Saturday. It's just the false equivalencies that the right are trying to play with this violence are out to lunch. I saw Congress people up there today equating people yelling at Sarah Huckabee Sanders at a restaurant with the violence that we saw on Capitol Hill, as if yelling at a person at a restaurant is somehow equivalent to starting a riot that kills a cop, beats another cop with the flagpole, has another cop apparently feel so bad that he commits suicide and kills 4 of the rioters themselves. Right? We just never seen that. But they're equating it to being mean and sending mean tweets about Sarah Huckabee Sanders. It's ridiculous what the equivalencies are trying to draw right now.
Ellie, Monique Presley takes exception with your Merrick Garland critique.
Hi, it's not necessarily the critique that I take exception with. I just don't feel that it has any support. In fact, I think you would be stretched to find another former Assistant Attorney General, U.S. Prosecutor, DOJ person with more experience prosecuting domestic terrorists than now Judge, soon to be Attorney General Merrick Garland, and that's black ones, white ones, brown ones, blue ones. So when you look at experience, whether it's Olympic bombings, whether it's Ted Kaczynski, whether it's Oklahoma City, and this is a trial lawyer. He didn't just pop up and be born a judge. And I claim personal privilege in that I've appeared before him, I've appeared against him. I'm clear on what he's like as a prosecutor, and I have no doubt, none, that when it comes to having the gut, the will, the know-how, the expertise to charge these white male, because they were largely white, largely male, largely 23 to 50 citizens of the United States who committed domestic terror, Merrick Garland is the person to do that. So I don't think we have to lean on Vanita Gupta, who's excellent, or Kristen Clark, who's excellent. It's a good team, but it's led by someone who, yes, was a temperate judge, who I've appeared in front of, and was thankful for the temperance, that I didn't get a prosecutor as a judge, because you're supposed to be. But when he was a prosecutor, yeah, he did that job. So that's the job that I think he was appointed to do. And that's the job that I expect to see him do because he's done it before.
Ellie?
Okay, so Garland does have a record of, you're absolutely right, of prosecuting domestic terrorists. What he doesn't have a record of is holding law enforcement accountable. And if you understand that in this moment, the terrorists and the law enforcement are kind of the same people, this is why I have an issue. An independent analysis of Garland's record as a judge, and I agree, this is when he was a judge, so maybe he'll just be different when he's a prosecutor again. But an independent analysis of Merrick Garland when he was a judge found that in 10 of 14 cases where police misconduct or brutality were on the line, Merrick Garland sided with the police in 10 of those 14 cases, including 3 over the dissent of more liberal lawyers who sided against the cops. So maybe he's changed, maybe he's evolved in his position on police brutality and police violence. Maybe, as you say, he will go back into prosecutor mode as opposed to judge mode. Maybe he understands that now that the terrorists and the law enforcement are the same people. But I have concerns about his willingness to hold law enforcement accountable, even though, as you say, he has held terrorists accountable before. Is he able to understand the melding of those two words, or will he continue to treat law enforcement with kid gloves as he did as a judge? That's
right, but he didn't treat them with kid gloves. Judges, sorry, I lost my place. Judges call balls and strikes, right? Judges have to apply the law. And so if the law is swayed toward police and law enforcement, and for every single year that I was defending the police department, that's what was happening, then the judge has to apply that law. So we need to get rid of qualified immunity so that a judge who's taking place of Garland doesn't have to apply that. That doesn't mean that he doesn't understand. That doesn't mean that he doesn't know the job of an advocate as a prosecutor. That means that we have laws on the books, which I'm sure you would agree need to change, but it's not the job of the judge to change them. It's the job of the legislature. So I never fault judges for not breaking the law and not doing a job other than theirs. They're not public defenders. They're not prosecutors. So I think we need to give him a chance to do his job as the top prosecutor in the land because he's done that job before, and I think he knows how to do it again.
That's where we can find comedy. I am willing to give him a chance. All I am saying is that when you are the one liberal in dissent of a decision that allows the treatment of prisoners at Guantanamo Bay to stand, other liberals said, no, this has to stop. And Merrick Garland sided with Republicans to defend the keepers of Guantanamo Bay. That gives me concerns. Do we want to give him a chance? Absolutely. Could he have evolved? Absolutely. Is he in a different role than he was? Absolutely. These are all good things on his record. But there were other more liberal, more progressive choices that could have been made as opposed to Garland. And so we're rolling the dice and we're hoping at this point, and maybe you're right, but we're hoping that he decides to hold law enforcement accountable in his role at the DOJ.
Ellie Misto, just corresponding with The Nation. We surely appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, thank you very much, folks. Here is Congresswoman Matt Waters today on the House floor sharing her thoughts about impeaching Trump.
Madam Speaker, I rise in support of impeaching again the worst president in the history of the United States. Since his first day in office, this president has spent 4 years abusing his power, lying, embracing authoritarianism, radicalizing his supporters against democracy. This corruption poisoned the minds of his supporters, inciting them to willingly join with white supremacists, neo-Nazis, and paramilitary extremists in a siege of the United States Capitol building, the very seat of American democracy. The Republican Party is now the Trump Party. And I want you to know that this is a Trump power grab that will not stop. It will not stop with attacking the Capitol and our state legislatures. This president intends to exercise power long after he is out of office. It is reported that the President of the United States watched the invasion from the Oval Office, our Capitol, and seemingly enjoyed it. I want you to know we should be concerned that the Republicans will not defend him, and he is capable of starting a civil war. He must be impeached. He must be stopped now.
Gentleman, your reserves.
Congresswoman Ilhan Omar of Minnesota.
Let us not mince words about what happened last week. It was a violent attempt to interrupt our democratic process. It was a targeted blow at the most essential process makes us a democracy. It was a direct and specifically incited by the President of the United States. For years, we have been asked to turn a blind eye to the criminality, corruption, and in disregard to the rule of law by the tyrant president we have in the White House. We as a nation can no longer look away. The president not only incited an insurrection against our government, but has in word and deed led a rebellion. We cannot simply move past this or turn the page. For us to be able to survive as a functioning democracy, there has to be accountability. We must impeach and remove this president from the office immediately so that he cannot be a threat to our democracy. I stand ready to fulfill my oath of office. I challenge my colleagues on the other side of the aisle to do the same. I yield back.
Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, this is what she dropped on Instagram, folks. And when you talk about speaking a level of truth, she did not mince any words talking about the party.
I want to hear the Republican Party about blue lives, and this was never about them. It was a slogan. If they actually cared about law, they would speak up when break the law. Speak up. They would enforce and equity, but give a damn about law. They don't give a damn about order. They don't damn about safety. They give a damn about supremacy. They care about serving the social order and the mythology of witness than the grandeur of our democracy. They care about. They love power more. They care about democracy. What those people did when they voted to overturn the results of our free, fair election. You can barely call them that with the amount of voter suppression that they have engaged in across the country. It is generous, to say the least, to call them that. And so with all rules rigged in their favor, the Electoral College is built on a compromise with slavers. The Senate is rigged in their favor. Gerrymandered districts are rigged in the Republican favor. This presidency and the law breaking and the pardons of people who have betrayed our country, all of it rigged in their favor, and they can't even in with the whole deck stacked with them. They can't even win with the deck stacked in their and so what they are willing to is set a match at our entire democracy on fire so that they can uphold the social order of supremacy. That's what this is about. Straight up. This is about thinking that election doesn't force your power. The need is fundamentally eliminated.
That was Congresswoman Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez. Folks, we talked earlier about how these riots were being planned. And I'm going to go to Robert and Scott and Monique next. I'll show you this video. This is video. Remember, people were live streaming this whole deal. Listen to them talk about their strategy on how they were going to attack the U.S. House.
What's the floor plan? That door, there's a door to the right. That's a cop. Going down the stairs, back looping around, door beneath us. That we're going to get over. The door's already open. We just need a plan. We need enough people. We need to push forward.
Okay.
Door right here. Not going that door. Downstairs, loop around.
Okay.
Hey
guys, I've been in the other room. Listen to me. In the other room on the other side of this door, right here where these feet are standing, there is a glass that if it's broken, you can drop down into a room underneath it. There's also two doors in the other room. One at the rear and one to the right when you go in. So people should probably coordinate together if you're going to take this building. We got another window to break to make it in and out easy. And this window here in the whole room needs to be broken. Yeah, what's here? And then walk down through a window here. Line the fuck out. I'm going back over there.
Where's my press? Story extension. Remember I told you?
What's he saying? Tell me what you're doing. Just give me some narrative.
Look for yourself.
We need people. God damn it.
All right, there.
Yep. You like some kind of fucking ball or some shit? No, I mean like tear gas. Don't fuck with that shit. Don't touch that. That's not like this. That could be like that thing.
All right.
Use it as a battle. Why would we do that anyway? Yes. It's our shit.
Scott, watch this video. I mean, they had help. They were not just flying blind doing whatever.
No one was scared. There were no police around. They had a game plan. They weren't as organized as the military per se, but they had a game plan. They were reporting back to one another, and that group right there was systematic and affirmative in what their goals and objectives were, which was disruption. We still don't know what they took out of the Capitol. I keep raising that we know what we saw them take, but we don't know what sensitive information that they took. There are no police around. It's almost like they're in this office, and that's their headquarters, at least for that sector of the Capitol. We've got windows broken over here. We need people over there, if you will, right? And still no police. And here's another thing, right? Those people, just those people, right, walked out of the Capitol free and went home or went to their hotels. No one was arrested. Those 70 people that were arrested that day, the majority of those were for curfew violations after 6 o'clock. They weren't at the Capitol, if you will. When reinforcements came, they didn't even have the buses there. Where in Black Lives Matter, they had buses, they had plastic handcuffs, and they just lined them up and arrested them to go process them. None of that was there, even after the National Guard was there, right? Second, or lastly, these people were not afraid. I'll say it again, they were not afraid. This was their house. They weren't afraid of law enforcement. They believe this was a revolution. Look how assertive they are. They got that narrative from Donald Trump, that negative narrative from Donald Trump. That's why he's responsible. That's why he needs to be impeached. And that's why these people walking out the door were never arrested. And now they're going to arrest them. It's going to take years. They won't all get them, as Monique says. But look at that. That's not Black Lives Matter. That's insurrectionists, right? That's not rioters, right? Those are people attacking democracy because they believe in white supremacy and they believe in Donald Trump. And for Donald Trump to lose, that had to mean that this was fraudulent elections. Bottom line, and it never stops being that.
There are a lot of trash-ass takes out here, Robert. Here's one of them from James Comey. Oh, my God.
Biden should pardon Trump as Ford did Nixon.
I don't know. He should at least consider it. Now, I don't know whether Donald Trump is a genius, but he might figure out that if he accepts a pardon, that's an admission, the United States Supreme said. So I don't know that he would accept pardon, but healing the country and getting us to a place where we can focus on things that are going to matter over the next 4 years, I think Joe Biden's going to have to at least think about that.
Do you think Joe Biden should
A phrase I'll use right here, Robert. That's that bullshit right there.
Mm-hmm. It's important to understand that Donald Trump from the beginning has always been a symptom of what's going on in America. He's not the cold itself. These people have been organizing militias, have been organizing the Boogaloo Boys and the Proud Boys and all these other separatist groups for years. Donald Trump was simply the martyr. He was the iconoclastic figure that was needed to unite these disparate groups. But it's going to be important that as we do congressional hearings and investigations, at least 3 sitting Congress people have been implicated as assisting these terrorists in their attack on the Capitol. Remember, this was not a riot. I've been in a riot before. I think everybody's seen a riot. A riot doesn't have a police escort. A riot doesn't bust people in and put them up in a hotel for the weekend. The riot doesn't have a permit to have speeches in the park before you go start rioting. So this was very clearly coordinated. We've had people who were part of the come out. Alex Jones has said he was in constant contact with the White House, leading people down. That this was an organized and consecrated attack on the United States government. It's going to be very important to find the people in Congress who are involved, expel them from the House, prosecute them, ensure they can never hold office again, charge them with treason and sedition, send them to Guantanamo Bay. I think we might have to see Ted Cruz and Senator Hawley carted off in orange jumpsuits and put on an island somewhere. We had, even during a terrorist attack on the Capitol, 140 Republicans still voted as part of the charade to not certify electoral college results. This was an attack on the United States government, the attack on the United States Capitol. All 140 of those Republicans should not be seated in the next Congress. Those state legislatures should call for a special election. We have to get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, who's a certified white supremacist, out of Congress. We have to get these people and purge them from the government. The way to heal is not simply to say there's someone busting your house and then you see them in your front yard holding your TV and you say, well, it's time to heal. No, we have to put the TV back. We have to prosecute the people, and then we can start healing. I think the Republicans are trying to skip over that very crucial step.
It is just, it's amazing to me, Monique, that heal. These white folks still mad about 9/11.
Heal.
I mean, so here's my whole, to me, this is the way you can sort of measure this. But every person that says heal, they ass involved. That's my deal, Monique. You come with that healing, no, hell no. No, see, no. This is where we need 1 million John Shafts.
So they're saying, here you come with that healing bullshit.
Yeah, here you come with that healing bullshit. See, then I'm tired of all these folks. Oh no, let's extend grace. No, that's what Dietrich Bonhoeffer called cheap grace. No, I ain't. No. See, I can pray for your ass when you in jail.
All right.
I can pray for your healing when you locked up. Right now, nah, we ain't healing a damn thing.
Right, and Bonhoeffer also said, to accept the call, which he was talking about the call of Christ, is to say, come and die. And that's what I was saying earlier. Right, that there are responsibilities, that there are sacrifices that go along with this oath of office. And what we're hearing throughout all of this whining and all of this let's get along and all of this let's heal is I'm good with doing my job when your life is on the line. But when it comes to my door, no. When I'm the one that has to hunker down, when I'm the one that has to shelter in place, when it's my family that's been threatened, oh no. Now we're in some weird kumbaya moment where we act like you have not been part and parcel of everything that got us to this moment. So no. There will not be reconciliation without accountability, without repentance, without actually discipline, and that's what I was saying earlier. If you're in the House of Representatives, if you're in the Senate, then somebody's got to come to Colin. You need to lose your job. As my sister, where is she? We need her right now. Everybody needs to be about to lose their job for this because the Frankenstein of their creation has done what monsters do. And so now, mad scientists, all of you, accept that. Own that. Take responsibility for what has happened. But the other thing that I want to point to, Roland, is that, there can't really be a healing without acknowledging all of the underbelly, because this didn't start with Donald Trump, and it will not finish with Donald Trump. There was a Confederate flag waving in the Capitol, and that's never happened. Like not even during the Civil War, not pre-Civil War. The Proud Boys and all of their lineage, they brought the weapons of hate. There was a noose on the front lawn where I would take my children year after year to watch the national fireworks. There was a noose hanging there. And so not just our places that represent democracy, because you remember 9/11, something was aimed at the Capitol and was thwarted and missed, right? And so, and I was trying to get to that building that day to report to work, so I won't forget it. I remember being turned around right there at 395 off of the East Street exit and trying to figure out what was happening and why were people running. And so we have defended ourselves against foreign enemies. Now it's time to put that same energy, as the young folks would say, on our home enemies, on the ones we've been looking at. Because Ted Kaczynski and the Unabomber and all of them, they've metastasized. So let's look at these angry white men who start getting angry when they're 16 and don't stop getting angry until they die. What they so mad about? And how are we the sitting ducks for their rage? And those are the things that I want to see answered, because Trump will be in exile at Mar-a-Lago and we will still be dealing with these issues. So on the one hand, thank you that we can see it. But on the other hand, let's immediately do something about it.
Mr. McConnell, this is the statement that he released right here. It says, the House of Representatives has to impeach the president. The Senate process now began at our regular meeting following an article from the House. In the rules, procedures, and precedents that govern presidential impeachment trials, that a fair or serious trial before President-elect Biden is sworn. There's 3 presidential impeachment trials. They have 83, 37 days, and 21 days. Keep in mind, y'all, they confirmed this in A's. Mitch McConnell's full of shit. Even if this week and move promptly, no would be reached until after President Trump's the decision I am making. It is a fact. The president last week that his inauguration is the quickest path in the occupant. In light of this reality, I believe it will best serve our nation of Congress branch in the next 7 days, completely focusing a safe inauguration and the incoming Biden administration. I'm grateful to the officers within the Capitol that are working around the clock, federal and local law enforcement. Its inauguration at the Capitol next Wednesday. This is real simple, Scott. Congress ain't got a damn thing to do. The reality is this here. You could actually get this done if you want to. Mitch McConnell doesn't want to do that. Let's just be honest. And so all this little blabber, oh no, we can't do this here. Dude, you're not out there sitting there putting fencing as well gate barricades. You're not stopping it. No, you don't want to do this. You want to wait till Biden becomes president. Just say it.
Yeah, everything about Mitch McConnell, that's true, but everything about Mitch McConnell is about elections and about the party and what calculations he's making about it. And so he certainly doesn't want the GOP Senate to stand up and vote either way on this particular bill. And by the way, or impeachment. And by the way, there's a 2014 amendment to some legislation that allows them to call them back in times of emergency. The majority leader and the minority leader for the Senate have to agree to that. And so the reason this is important is because Schumer, the Democratic minority leader, has said, I will call my people back. So he needs McConnell to call the GOP senators back. He's refusing to do that, saying, listen, it's not my call. We just don't have time to do it, and we want to focus on something else. He could easily call them back. Those 8 days, 20 days, how long it takes to convict someone in the past, that's all process and procedure. As you saw today with the House, you could expedite through that. Have the videos, have the statements, you have the evidence right there. You've got the House managers who have been selected already by Nancy Pelosi, and you just go present the case. It's one charge, it's inciting a riot, and the evidence is right there. You could take that up and introduce that even if you didn't take any witnesses. Do your arguments on the evidence. You can do that in one day. It's not like you got 5 charges and stuff, and then you could vote within 1 to 3 days after that. That seems like you could get it done. I'm not being impractical, but it's about the commitment and the will. But you see, he's counting on what the future of the GOP is, whether it's Trumpism in the GOP or whether we're going to move beyond Trump. And he hasn't figured out how to calculate that based on the voters, based on who the GOP, who their base is going to be. Do they want the base to be Trump people or the base to be the more traditional Republicans? That's his calculation.
I want to bring in my next guest, Dr. Magdala.
You don't have that, Monique?
Commonwealth, Scott, stop talking. A Commonwealth Fund Fellow in Minority Health Policy at Harvard University, because Congresswoman Ayanna Pressley, the reason you did not see a video of her speaking on the floor of the U.S. House today is because she is quarantined, Doc, with her husband. She issued a statement. She said, as my colleagues and I sought shelter from the white supremacist mob that attacked our seat of greeted by a different threat, one from a callous Republican coup in this crowded and confined space, repeatedly wear masks when offered. Arrogant disregard for the lives of others is infuriating, but not something. And we are seeing the comment daily as several days, and now my husband, positive for COVID-19. Families in Massachusetts all across the country who have been deeply outraged by the criminal negligence administration in risk prices, along with Congress who continue to downplay the severity of the virus that has claimed the lives of 180,000 Americans. My God, we've shown the video, Doc, of Lisa Rochester Blunt, trying to pass out masks, and they're like, no, no, no. Now, her husband who was there, Congresswoman Bonnie Coleman, also another Congresswoman, four members of Congress now tested positive, who were all grouped together, and these idiots don't care.
Exactly, right. And that's a problem. That's a problem. And to make it even more impactful, yesterday we hit a record for daily deaths for COVID. Over 4,300 fatalities attributed to COVID. That's a problem. When I saw that number, my stomach dropped. And it dropped because I know what that means as a person, as a physician, as a Black daughter who has lost both her parents in this pandemic to COVID. It's not just about the death, it's the aftermath. This is pain to families. And for people to be careless, to not care, to just storm into places, not wear masks, not take precautions, this is pain that's going to be caused to so many families. And let's not forget that the Black and brown community is being disproportionately impacted by this pandemic and by this virus. It's maddening. And
of course, all these people were out there with Donald Trump and his folks not wearing masks, the video of them being backstage, same thing. They acted this thing, they don't care. They've never cared. And so in his little video talking about, the vaccine, how fast, dude, no. 380,000 Americans are dead because you have not shown any leadership whatsoever.
Right. And that's a problem. And let's talk about it, right? So we're talking about the number, and I know the one argument has been, as we test more people, we expect it to be more positive. It's not just the positive cases, okay? So we have to look at it in multiple phases. It's increase in positive cases, but also an increase in fatalities. So as cases are going up, more people are dying, right? So that's one element of it. The next part of it is we're not talking about moderate to severe disease. So those who may not die, but have symptoms that are bad enough that they have to go to the hospitals. The hospitals are packed Okay, so that means they're staying in the hospital longer. We're getting packed. Hospitals are not just for COVID. Like, let's not forget. People go to the hospitals for heart attacks, for complications for other diseases. So as we pack these beds with those who need to be treated for coronavirus, those are other people being turned away and not having an opportunity to go in to get treated. And then the last part of it that is not talked about enough, because we are still learning, are the people who recover from COVID, but still have long impacting effects, health effects. So now this impacts their ability to be functional. You hear countless stories of people saying, I can't exercise like I used to. I can't do the things I'm normally used to, even though I'm done being treated and I'm not in the hospital. So what does that mean? That's people not being able to go to work, not being able to engage in normal activities with their family. Then what does that mean for our economy? What does that mean for our community? So I think people look at these numbers, it's not just numbers. This is the state of our country, and it has to be taken seriously.
Obviously, when we look at where we stand now, do you also agree with the decision in the Biden campaign today? No one on the mall. They're going to put 200,000 flags on the ground, represent people who would have been there. But the mayor of D.C., Muriel Bowser, said, do not come. Airbnb just canceled all reservations in D.C. for Inauguration Week, and saying they would fund everyone and actually pay for the people whose homes were booked as well. So they are all encouraging people not to come to D.C. Because of COVID.
Right. Yeah, I think we have to put that extreme, and I know it makes people uncomfortable. But if you look at how many people traveled over the holiday break, and one airport reported over 1 million people going through their airport. Like, imagine, and there was recently a report of people who went on planes, even knowing after they tested positive, and willingly being selfish and being reckless and putting other people at danger. And that's the point that we have to make. It's not just about you. You know, as you resume your risk, you're putting other people at risk. So I agree. We have to, if we want to get any sense of normalcy back to what looks like the world we're familiar with from the pre-pandemic, we have to be okay with really drawing the line, not only for our own families, but for everyone else, to really get our foot in the ground and start to make some progress on getting this pandemic behind us.
Dr. Magula's area, we really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Robert, I would not be, if I was a member of Congress, I was in that room, that small room, and those fools were declining masses. I'm just saying, Robert, it's a good chance #team whip that ass would have showed up.
Well, unfortunately, it came with the COVID out of people. So that's one of the issues you're going to run into. You're putting yourself in even closer contact with them. And what we have to think about, there's a double whammy here, because since we have this terrorist attack, which was assisted by at least 3 members of Congress, we have Congress people who do not want to go to metal detectors. Would you trust being in a small confined space during a terrorist attack with somebody who might be a member of that insurgency? Where these people have already demonstrated they do not have an allegiance to the United States government, do not have an allegiance to our Constitution, they do not have an allegiance or care for their colleagues. They are only have allegiance to the Trump movement and to this MAGA extremist insurgency. So they do not care about math. They do not care about virology. They do not care about physics or anything else. The only thing they care about is maintaining power, pushing the narrative which they believe in, which is antithetical to the health and safety of the United States of America and the government therewith. So I think it's very important for us to work on rooting these people out of our government, expelling them from Congress, breaking down these organizations which have been working their way through social media and through the dark web, finding out exactly how deep this has penetrated into law enforcement and into our national security apparatus. We got a lot. Joe Biden has the hardest transition of any president probably since Ulysses S. Grant, and trying to bring a nation back together, and it's going to take a Congress which is willing and ready to fight along with them to defend and protect our democracy.
I'm going to come back to this. I do want to go to this story, this breaking news story. As we yesterday, former Michigan Governor Rick Snyder has been charged with willful neglect of duty regarding the Flint water crisis. Monique, that is a big development.
Yes, and an appropriate one. And this is one of those justice delayed but not denied type scenarios, because we've all known and been wondering at what point the state officials would be held accountable for their part in a crisis that so clearly could have been avoided or at least stymied. I was happy to see that the investigation continues, that the prosecutors are doing jobs, and that they're reaching way up to the highest parts of the government.
Scott, you represent one of the emergency managers. Your thoughts on this decision to indict and charge former governor?
Haven't seen the indictment. I can tell you that the prior criminal charges against Darnell Early and others were dismissed because they simply could not make the connection between those decisions and criminal intent as opposed to civil liability. There's a mass settlement going on, but what this tells me about the Snyder indictment, having not seen it, is that they've either got a witness or a document that connects him directly to it, and he denies coverage, denies sending resources, whatever he's denied, the smoking gun. And as the governor, he made the ultimate decision as to whether to help the citizens of Flint, Michigan or not. He can't run from that because he has the ultimate power. Let's take a look at the indictment and revisit this discussion once we've seen more.
Robert Patillo.
I think it's very important to take this case and understand the issue of environmental racism in Black and brown communities throughout the country. Flint is the canary in the coal mine, but both affecting Black communities and other minority and poor communities. Everything from fracking and having a sink that will shoot flammable gases out. If you look in your backyard and you see there's a giant landfill and there happens to be a Black community there, those are issues of environmental racism, and we have to start holding government officials responsible, because when you look at many of the comorbidities that are in the Black community, they're resulting in us dying at a higher rate of COVID. Many of those come from the environmental aspects that are affecting us, whether it's the air that we breathe, the water that we drink, the lead in the paint, the lead in our water system. We talk about the kids ain't acting right. The kids ain't acting right because there's lead in the water. So we have to work through fixing these issues nationwide. Flint is the example. It shouldn't take this long, but it has to be going forward around the country.
All right, folks, got to go to a break. When we come back, we'll talk more about the big news of the day. Donald Trump being impeached for the second time, the first person in America to be impeached twice. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered. And for me, the reason I see the value, so my parents worked elections. They volunteered for campaigns. They ran phone banks. I remember being 7, 8, 9 years old. It was like you had no choice. It's not like you had a vote. It was like, yo, go over there for the next 8 hours, stand there and hand out these pamphlets to anybody who's walking in. And then we'll bring you lunch, and then you got some water for yourself. It's kind of like, okay. Again, that was what wasn't like my brother could say, nah, we're all right. We're gonna stay at the house. It didn't work that way. And so for me, that was a huge part of my upbringing.
And look at you now. And it's very interesting because for me, service was a huge part of my upbringing. And that's just something that's just, it's a natural thing. I don't think twice about going out and doing community service. I don't think twice about giving up my Saturday mornings, even if I stayed out late on Friday nights. I don't think twice about going to church in the mornings. I think that might be even bigger than the civics piece in schools. I mean, I think that at this point, having that in schools at least gives the children the opportunity to go home and ask their parents, so Mom, Dad, what is this? What do you think we should do about this? This is what I learned in school today. Let's talk about it. At least gives the children something to bring home and start a conversation with. However, if the parents start that for the children, then, then the children can go to school and say, hey, why am I not learning this here? Why don't I have a civics class? You know what I mean? And we'll have more Roland Martins running around here.
To be the first African American to become the Secretary of Defense, if confirmed, is an enormous honor and a privilege. But it's not the first time that I've been the first. Back when I was a lieutenant colonel, I was selected to be the operations officer for the 82nd Airborne Division. An African American had never held that position before. And later on, I would become the first African American to command an infantry division in combat. And subsequent to that, I was the first African American to command an Army Corps in combat. The first African American to be the Vice Chief of the Army. The first African American to be the CENTCOM commander. It's hard to believe, but it's true. There is a sad commentary here, and that is, it shouldn't have taken this long for us to get here. There should have been someone that preceded me. And I am enormously grateful for the service and the sacrifices of those that went before me. The Tuskegee Airmen, the Montford Point Marines, the folks who served in World War I and World War II. who performed with distinction. And it's on their shoulders that I stand here today. My goal is to not be the last. Hopefully we can set those conditions in place that ensure that I'm not the last Corps commander to command in combat or the last CENTCOM commander, and certainly not the last African-American Secretary of Defense.
This is your coup. This is your siege. This is your insurrection. With your support for Donald Trump, you have brought this shame to America. You, Ted Cruz. You, Josh Hawley. You, Kevin McCarthy. You supported this, and you will be held accountable. This disgrace is all yours.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for content of this advertising.
All right, folks, we've had second impeachment. The question now is, what is next? Scott Bowden, what do you think happens next? Will you see folks go after Senator Ted Cruz, Josh Hawley? Will you see a real investigation going after Biggs as well as Mo Brooks and others, and how ghosts are in the House? What happens next?
I think the commission will be formed. There's just too much inside support for this. With the Capitol Police, the decisions made by the administration, including the Department of Homeland Security. There's got to be a thorough investigation. That'll take some time. That'll be a longer-term view. Secondly, we're waiting to see what's going to happen at the inauguration and around the country in these state capitals. The National Guard, their 20,000 have been released in the district, and unfortunately, it's going to be like a fortress. And remember, we've got COVID, and the mayor of D.C. saying people stay away. If that goes pretty smoothly, then you're going to see the second foot drop or shoe drop in regard to the Senate and when, where, and how they take it up. You know, Biden hasn't gotten behind this impeachment process yet. He's being a practical Democratic politician, but I think that'll change once he gets into office. And so the question for the Senate will be, can the Democrats and GOP start moving forward with Biden's agenda, moving forward with his appointees, and do a quick and dirty indictment on Donald Trump. And then lastly, we're going to look and see what the state of New York does, the prosecutors as well as Tish James on the AG. When are the taxes coming out? When do the civil and criminal prosecutions move forward at the state level? And then second to last, who does Donald Trump pardon going forward if he wants to go out in a blaze of negative GOP glory? All those things to watch, lots of news.
Well, of course, it did not take the folks at Lincoln Project long to share their thoughts about impeachment. Watch this.
Violent insurrections, crushing peaceful dissent. Donald Trump learned the way from his dictator pals. He wanted to be like them, a strong man. In 2019, Sisi, the man Trump called his favorite dictator, came to the White House to show Trump how it's done. An American citizen, Mustafa Kazem, was unjustly arrested in Egypt for having an American passport at a protest. Sisi wanted him dead, but Kazem had begged Trump for help. Sisi told Trump he needed to show strength, so Trump didn't fight for Kazem. 1 year ago today, Sisi executed our fellow American, and Trump let him do it. He wanted to be a strong man. He will leave a weakling with blood on his hands. Don't ever forget it.
The Lincoln Project is responsible for the content of this advertising.
The strong. I love it how they keep tweeting ass, Robert.
Well, we have to look at both that and also the killing of Khashoggi, which President Trump was complicit in doing so, and telling the Saudis that he saved their tail on that issue. What we're going to have to see going forward is within the next several days, the Congress putting together a legislative straitjacket around Donald Trump, that even if he cannot be removed from office, work legislatively both in the House and the Senate to reduce his powers in the next several weeks to prevent him from being able to do any more damage to the Constitution. After that, this is why those 2 Senate seats in Georgia were so crucially important, because now we will have a Democratic chair of the Judiciary Committee, a Democratic chair of many of the other House committees, who will be able to launch a proper investigation into exactly how deep this conspiracy went within the United States Congress, within the Capitol Police, within the National Guard, how many people were involved in this, bring those folks to justice. And then I think after a congressional investigation, and that is when you can transmit the articles of impeachment to the Senate, now that you have all of the information. And then I think you would have a chance of having that majority needed, those 67 votes, to convict Donald Trump in the Senate, prevent him from running for office again, strip him of his pension, strip him of Secret Service, treat him like the criminal that he has become. Because right now, the United States security apparatus was afraid on January 5th and January 6th that there will be a retaliatory strike by the Iranian government for the assassination of Soleimani by President Trump. What they were not prepared for were our own people attacking our own capital, that the terrorist attack would happen from within. A nation could survive any attack from the outside, but when you are being attacked by your own brothers and sisters in your own capital, holding a United States flag, chanting USA while beating a police officer to death, where you cannot trust your fellow congresspeople to go through a metal detector, and you don't know whether or not they're going to give you COVID or sneak a gun into the Capitol. This is how caustic the situation has gotten. And that's why it's so important to bring these people to justice to prevent this from happening again in the future.
It's always something when Americans love to have the moral high ground over the rest of the world, Monique. I saw this today. And Russell Crowe and Australians, let's just say they were having a little fun. What's this?
I'm Russell Crowe. In Australia, we live in a peaceful democracy with universal healthcare and BPAY, but others around the world aren't in it. They live with no access to doctors, education, and are forced to drink coffee. There's cities that in civil unrest. People are threatened by local with poor fashion sense, and to make matters, they don't have a source. They are Americans. Just $1 a day. You answer an American. At Gloss Adopt an American, we'll pair you up with an in need, and we'll cafes in their neighborhood that serve food and flat whites. We'll doctor that will bulk and distribute pharmaceuticals they won't have to sell their house to us. And each month, photo of your American, and they'll a ballot for a vote to cast. But couldn't they had an outstanding parking ticket or moved house on Thursday or obscure bullshit? So giving them some hope and a chance at a good espresso. Looks, I've been part of the Adopt a Kiwi program, and look at me, I'm Russell Crowe.
Damn.
That is awful.
Monique.
That is so embarrassing.
Monique, go ahead.
No, it's hideous. It's shameful. I would have found it funny if every single part of it wasn't true. Those are our circumstances, and for a country with the amount of wealth and resource and power that we have, and the amount of influence that we used to have around the world, the manner in which we have continued to treat our own people is disgraceful. And so, though that was done mockingly, it's sad, and it's accurate. The one thing that I wanted to say about where we go from here is I am glad that Mitch McConnell is saying there's not enough time to get this trial done, because there isn't. I still believe in legal process. I still believe that trials require evidence. They require the working up of the evidence. They require full time for people to present the pros and the cons and then make a considered decision, especially about something as important as this. What Leader McConnell didn't point out is that the very shortest time, the 21 days, was because he pushed it through, not wanting to give the House managers, not wanting to give the time during the last impeachment trial for Donald J. Trump for the evidence to actually come in. So I want it to be a Leader Schumer. I want it to be a tie-breaking vote by the President of the Senate, Vice President Kamala Harris. I want for them to be the ones who decide on the rules and how much evidence is going to come in and how much time people are going to have to speak so that we can get this right. And then I think that Mitch can do what it seems like he really wants to do, which is whip his own members and get those 17 votes, which one of them likely will come from him. So if he has to, just cower away and not take leadership or responsibility for this, but still get it done so that Donald Trump can never run for elective office again, can never be president of the United States again, so that he can be prosecuted or have to return all of this hundreds of millions of dollars that he's raised just since the election, so be it. I believe that we have a better chance of that job being done if the Democrats are in charge.
And I also say the next step, go after everybody who aided and abetted this insurrection, including those who did so in conservative media. This is the piece done by Really American.
Begin to believe that their democracy is fraudulent. If they conclude that voting is a charade, the system is rigged, then God knows what could happen.
They rigged an election. They rigged it like they've never rigged an election before.
Actually, we do know what could happen. It's happening right now.
The U.S. Capitol overrun, under siege. Pro-Trump extremists storming inside, flooding the halls, breaching the floor of the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Millions of Americans sincerely believe the last election was fake.
It was a landslide election, and everyone knows it. We will not go quietly into the night.
When thousands of your countrymen storm the Capitol building, if you don't bother to pause and learn a single thing from it, then you're a fool.
I know your pain. I know you're hurt. We had an election that was stolen from us.
We got to this sad, chaotic day for a reason. It is not your fault. It is their fault.
Hold everybody accountable who have been participants in this, because again, warning, this is not the last time we're going to see the crazy. Louis Gohmert, who was on today, he said, I'm sure we're going to see insurrections taking place all over. That was Louis Gohmert who said that, y'all. I need our people to understand and be real clear what we're going up against. These people are dangerous. These people are going to carry water for Donald Trump. And so I just need us to understand what is at play here, what you're dealing with, what you're seeing. They're not going to stop. We got some sad news to report, and that is Brian, who was at the San Jose Mercury News, Lebanese jet, died today of a heart at the age of 5. He also was former national for the National Association of Black Journalists. Away this morning with his he issued a statement, Life and Legacy, at his past 5 years old. Away today, thoughts and condolences to all of his all of his NABJ members who mourn passing this morning. And so again, Brian Murray at the age of 55. So let me thank Robert, Monique, as well as being part of our panel today. I don't know, Robert, who your Skype provider is, but you may want to give Scott their phone number to greatly improve his signal, because you're crystal clear today, Scott. You've been a little shaky with the video, but way to go there.
Really, with people wearing the maroon and white of Morehouse College.
Yesterday,
you couldn't go there, but you made out for good for yourself anyway.
Had absolutely no desire to go there. None whatsoever. None whatsoever. I was perfectly satisfied with the maroon at A&M University. So that's how we roll. And yes, we alphas are quite familiar with the ladies at Spelman College. Unlike you Kappas. Let me also give a shout out today. Excuse me, Monique. This is my show. I got this. I don't need your assistance. No, let me be real clear. I don't need your assistance. I don't need no help. So I don't need you chiming in, trying to remind me. No, excuse me. I'm talking. I don't need Monique trying to remind me of what else is going on today. So please, stay in your lane and mind your business. Okay? So give a shout out to all the Deltas. Today is their Founders Day. They call it J13. And so my wife Jack is a Delta. My sister Levita is a Delta. All other Deltas out there. So a shout out to y'all on your found today. Across the world. So there you go, Monique. I don't know when it comes to that. Okay.
Did you shout out the Kappas
Nope.
on the January 5th show?
Nope.
Founders Day?
Nope.
That ain't right. That
Nope.
ain't right at all.
I didn't.
Scott, we had a lot of stuff going on January 5th.
Yeah, explain to him again, Robert. We have a lot going on January 5th, and the only red and white or crimson white that matters is Delta. All right, y'all, I appreciate it. If y'all want to support us, what we do on our Bring the Funk fan club, y'all can do so by supporting us via Cash App, $RM Unfiltered, PayPal.me/R Venmo.com RM Unfiltered, Zelle at Roland S. Martin on. And so we certainly appreciate all support you have offered us. Thank you so very much. For folks, more than 10,000 are watching on YouTube. You can join right there on YouTube or on Facebook as well if you like. We certainly appreciate you doing so. But again, if you go right to, you can support us via Cash App, PayPal, Zelle, or Venmo. Or if you want a card, you can simply go straight a straight site, RolandMartin.com. 100% of your support comes to us. 100 comes to as opposed to the income that we got to share with Facebook. Or if y'all support us directly here at RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Thank you so very much, folks. I hope you have a safe day. And don't forget, no day, no hour, no minute second is promised. And so live life to the fullest as best as you can. And that's what all of us should be. Thank you so very much. And yeah, shout out to Morehouse. Thank you for sending me the sweatshirt. We had our school choice as the Black Choice event on the campus of Morehouse. And I certainly that. And again, I got somebody, some folks at Xavier sent me a tweet. And there was some people graduating from Xavier who was upset that I was wearing a Dill shirt. Xavier, let me remind y'all, I appreciate Xavier, love y'all dearly, but I ain't never been invited to speak on your campus. So I only wear the HBCU gear on Roland Martin Unfiltered. I've actually spoken or visited that particular HBCU, and so that's the standard that I have. If y'all want me to rock Xavier on the show, just invite a brother. That's all you got to do. I'll see y'all tomorrow.